In a democracy, the rulers have to follow some rules and procedures. Prime Minister is the head of the government and actually exercises all governmental powers. He takes most of the decisions in the cabinet meetings. In order to settle any dispute, modern democracies have arrangements called institutions whose powers and functions are decided by the Constitution. Some institutions are the Prime Minister and Cabinet, civil servants, and Supreme Court. Parliaments make, change laws and implement new laws and is the final authority of law-making in the country. In India, the two houses are the Council of States or Rajya Sabha or Upper Chamber and House of the People or Lok Sabha or Lower Chamber. The Rajya Sabha has special powers over states but Lok Sabha exercises supreme power. All functionaries who take day-to-day decisions but do not exercise supreme power on behalf of the people are collectively known as executive or the government. Executives are divided into two categories: political executive and permanent executive or civil services. The Prime Minister, appointed by the President, is the most important political institution in the country. He or she is the chairperson of cabinet meetings and coordinates work of various departments. The President is the head of the state and exercises nominal ceremonial powers. The President is the Supreme Commander of the Defence Forces of India. The Supreme Court, High Courts and district and local level courts form the judiciary. Coalition government. A government formed by an alliance of two or more political parties, usually when no single party enjoys majority support of the members in a legislature. Executive. A body of persons having authority to initiate major policies, make decisions, and implement them on the basis of the Constitution and laws of the country. Government. A set of institutions that have the power to make, implement, and interpret laws so as to ensure an orderly life. In its broad sense, government administers and supervises over citizens and resources of a country. Judiciary. An institution empowered to administer justice and provide a mechanism for the resolution of legal disputes. All the courts in the country are collectively referred to as judiciary. Legislature. An assembly of people's representatives with the power to enact laws for a country. In addition to enacting laws, legislatures have authority to raise taxes and adopt the budget and other money bills. Office memorandum. A communication issued by an appropriate authority stating the policy or decision of the government. Reservations. A policy that declares some positions in government employment and educational institutions reserved for people and communities who have been discriminated against, are disadvantaged and backward. State. Political association occupying a definite territory, having an organized government and possessing power to make domestic and foreign policies. Governments may change, but the state continues. In common speech, the terms country, nation and state are used as synonyms. Lok Sabha. It is the lower house of the parliament. The Lok Sabha is directly elected by the people of India. The Lok Sabha can have a maximum of 552 members, including 20 members from the Union Territories and 2 from the Anglo-Indian community. Rajya Sabha. The Rajya Sabha is the upper house of the Parliament of India. It consists of 250 members, of which 12 are nominated by the President of India. Cabinet. A body of senior ministers who controls important ministries. Legislature. The legislature makes the laws. It consists of an assembly of the people's representatives with the power to enact laws for a country. An example of a major decision is given here. A major decision taken by the Uttar Pradesh state government in 2008 was not to allow the Reliance Group to open their retail shops selling vegetables and fruits in the state, as it would harm the interests of the small traders selling these items. This order was approved by the Council of Ministers, and the order was promulgated by the governor. Since it did not involve finances, it was not raised in the State Assembly. The courts were in no way involved, as it did not have any constitutional implications. Every office memorandum is not a major political decision. Most of them are routine in nature. This office memorandum relating to reservation for the socially and economically backward classes, SEBC, in government services was different because it affected all the sections of society. The SEBCs in a positive way and the other classes in a negative way. This reservation issue was a major source of controversy for several years and led to many agitations and court cases. Powers of the two houses of Parliament. Lok Sabha members are directly elected by the voters, and so theirs are the final voices in the passing of any laws. The Rajya Sabha members are indirectly elected or nominated, and they function mostly in an advisory capacity. But the consent of both houses is required for passing any bill, making a law, or making amendments to the Constitution. Role of the Speaker, Lok Sabha. The Speaker's main functions: regulate the proceedings of the House, maintain discipline in the House, supervise parliamentary committees, perform administrative duties like receiving documents, receiving petitions, etc., which are addressed to the House, exercise powers under the anti-defection law, exercise other powers as given in the Constitution. Role of the opposition. The major function of the opposition is to act as a check on the ruling party so that any faults of theirs are exposed and any mistakes made by the ruling party are corrected. They can even bring a no-confidence motion against the government if it is seen to be not functioning properly. Sometimes, the actions of the government or a law passed by the government might hurt the public interest or might be against the spirit of the Constitution. In such cases, citizens have the right to go to court to get justice. Such cases are called public interest litigations, PILs. In case of violation of fundamental rights by the government, the citizen can go to the court for justice. The right to constitutional remedies provides that if the fundamental rights are violated, the citizen can go to court to seek a remedy. Appointment of judges. The judges of the Supreme Court, and the High Courts are appointed by the President on the recommendation of the Prime Minister and in consultation with the Chief Justice of India. In actual practice, the senior judges of the Supreme Court select new judges for the Supreme Court as well as for the High Courts. Here, seniority and merit are the main considerations, with hardly any scope for manipulation by anybody. Removal of judges. The procedure of removal of judges of the Supreme Court and High Courts is very difficult to actually carry out. They can be removed only on the basis of an impeachment motion passed by two-thirds majority in both houses of Parliament separately. So, removal of judges cannot be done arbitrarily. Powers of the judiciary. The powers are clearly spelled out in the Constitution, and they cannot be diluted by Parliament or by any presidential order. So no politician can reduce or increase their powers. The Supreme Court has the power to declare illegal any law made by Parliament if it goes against the Constitution. The major functionaries in India are: President is the head of the state and is the highest formal authority in the country. Prime Minister is the head of the government and actually exercises all governmental powers. He takes most of the decisions in the cabinet meetings. Parliament consists of the President and two houses, the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. The Prime Minister must have the support of a majority of Lok Sabha members to do anything. The civil servant is usually more educated and has more expert knowledge of the subject. The advisors working in the finance ministry know more about economics than the finance minister. Sometimes, the ministers may know very little about the technical matters that come under their ministry. This could easily happen in ministries like defense, industry, health, science and technology, mining, etc. The President is not elected directly by the people. The elected members of Parliament, MPs, and the elected members of the Legislative Assemblies, MLAs, elect him/her. A candidate standing for President's post must get a majority of votes to win the election. This ensures that the President can be seen to represent the entire nation. The President can never claim the kind of direct popular mandate that the Prime Minister can. This ensures that he/she remains only a nominal executive. While the Prime Minister is the head of the government, the President is the head of the state. In our political system, the head of the state exercises only nominal powers. The President in India is only a nominal executive because the President supervises the overall functioning of all the political institutions in the country so that they operate in harmony to achieve the objectives of the state. All the major decisions are taken by the Council of Ministers headed by the Prime Minister, and the role of the President is only to accept it and sign it. The functions of the Supreme Court are: it can take up any dispute between the citizens of the country. It can take up any dispute between the citizens and government. It can take up any dispute between two or more state governments. It can take up any dispute between the governments at the union and state level. It can determine the constitutional validity of any legislation or action of the executive in the country when it is challenged before them. This is known as the judicial review. The Supreme Court and the High Courts have the power to interpret the constitution of the country. They can declare invalid any law of the legislature or the actions of the executive, whether at the union level or at the state level, if they find such a law or action is against the Constitution.